Leonid Feodorov was a Catholic convert and Russian Greek Catholic exarch who died after enduring imprisonment in a Soviet Gulag. He was born in Russia in 1879, the son of a Russian Orthodox family. His grandfather had been a serf, but his father ran a very successful restaurant. According to some authors, the restaurant was a favorite hangout of a young Joseph Stalin. Leonid's father died when he was young, and his mother raised him on her own. She encouraged him to be faithful to the Russian Orthodox Church, but also to read popular literature of the day. He later said, "I began to devour the best-known French novelists of the day. I became acquainted with the Italian Renaissance and its corrupt literature. My head came to be like a sewer into which the foulest muck was emptied." In school, Leonid was influenced by reading Hindu and Buddhist texts, and he came to consider himself to be a nihilist. Under the tutelage of his school chaplain, he experienced a religious conversion and started to feel called to become an Orthodox priest. In 1901, he began studying for the Russian Orthodox priesthood. He read the Church Fathers and about church history, and he started to believe that the Catholic Church was the one true church. During the late Russian Empire, Catholicism was viewed with suspicion and was actively suppressed. Catholic clergy was placed under surveillance by the secret police and were considered to be politically dangerous. In 1902, Leonid traveled to Rome and was formally received into the Catholic Church. He joined a Jesuit seminary under a fake name to avoid surveillance by the Russian secret police. Initially, he intended on becoming a Latin Rite priest, but with the encouragement of Pope Pius X, he transferred to the Eastern Rite. He was ordained in 1911 and became a priest-monk. Soon after his ordination, he returned to Russia and he was captured by the government. He was sent to prison in Siberia, and he wasn't released until the Russian Revolution, when the provisional government ordered the release of all political prisoners. After his release, the Russian Greek Catholic Church held a synod. At the synod, Metropolitan Andrei Sheptytsky named Leonid the Exarch of Russian Greek Catholics, kind of a head or leader of the community. Some say that Leonid was made a bishop around this time, but there are no official records of this happening. While persecution of the church stopped temporarily, in a few short years it would return with a vengeance. In 1922, the Bolshevik government introduced a series of laws that were aimed at suppressing religion. It was forbidden to teach religion to anyone under 18, all religious objects were seized to fund famine relief, and lay councils were installed in parishes to turn priests into employees. These laws were opposed by Leonid and by the Latin Rite Archbishop Jan Cieplak. Archbishop Cieplak's vicar general, Konstanty Budkiewicz, opposed them as well. All three men, along with 14 other priests and one layman, were arrested in 1923. The men were subject to a famous show trial. The prosecutor was a man named Nikolai Krylenko. He claimed that the defendants were counter-revolutionaries. He said, "The Catholic Church has always exploited the working classes. All the Jesuitical duplicity with which you have defended yourself will not save you from the death penalty. No pope in the Vatican can save you now. I spit on your religion as I do on all religions, on Orthodox, Jewish, Mohammedan, and the rest. There is no law here but Soviet law, and by that law you must die." During the trial, Leonid acted as his own attorney. According to Father Christopher Zuger, he pointed out that the church, accused of having neglected the starving, was at that moment feeding 120,000 children daily. Following a scathing rebuttal by Krylenko, Exarch Fёdorov rose for his final remarks. "Our hearts are full, not of hatred, but of sadness. You cannot understand us. We are not allowed liberty of conscience. That is the only conclusion we can draw from what we have heard here." Archbishop Cieplak and Father Budkiewicz were both sentenced to death. International uproar would cause the Soviets to spare Cieplak's life, but Budkiewicz was shot and killed shortly after the trial. He spent his final week alive praying fervently and stating his willingness to die for his sins. Pope Pius XI burst into tears and fell to his knees when he heard of Budkiewicz's execution. Leonid and the remaining defendants were sentenced to 10 years imprisonment in the Gulag. I have read conflicting reports on how he spent the first 3 years after his sentencing, but after 3 years he was sent to Solovki prison camp. Solovki prison was notorious during Soviet rule, called the Mother of the Gulag by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. It was located on an island in the White Sea and was formerly a monastery and the home of St. Philip of Moscow. St. Philip was an Orthodox metropolitan of Moscow in the 16th century. strangled to death after he openly condemned the crimes of Ivan the Terrible. One of the prisoners in the monastery, Catholic convert Julia Danzis, said that Exarch Leonid was very moved to be imprisoned in Philip's old monastery. She also said that Leonid encouraged her and other prisoners to stay firm in their faith when they were feeling forsaken or despondent. In the prison, Leonid offered the Divine Liturgy, at first openly and then in secret when the guards started punishing religious expression. He told his fellow priests that the liturgies they offered might be the only ones being offered at all in the whole of Russia, and that they needed to ensure that one liturgy was celebrated in Russia every day. It was hard for them to acquire wine to be used in the liturgy because the guards would confiscate any alcohol that they found. Leonid and other prisoners wrote to their families and asked their family members to send them raisins so that they could ferment the raisins and make drops of wine themselves. Eventually, the Soviets moved Leonid to a new town where he was forced to work making charcoal, and then, when he wouldn't stop teaching the catechism to local children, they moved him again to a new prison. He completed his sentence in 1932 and was released. The years in prison had completely exhausted him. He died on March 7, 1935, at the age of 55. After his death, Metropolitan Sheptytsky said, "We expect that the Exarch is on the road to glorification through beatification. Of course, it is much too early to talk about this, but all of us were strongly impressed by his holiness, strengthened by the crown of martyrdom and death. This certainly supports our expectations. On the other hand, as a Russian Catholic, as Exarch, as someone who died at the hands of the Bolsheviks, it seems to us that he will be right in the center of attention of the entire Church." A few years after Leonid's death, Nikolai Krylenko became a victim of Soviet justice himself. The man who had spent 16 years arguing for the death of innocent people was shot and killed in 1938, charged with participating in anti-Soviet activity. Today, Leonid is held in high esteem by Russian Catholics and others who are struck by his bravery, persistence, and piety. He was beatified in 2001, and his feast day is March 7th.